Well, a question. What is conflict really? Two people or two hungers facing each other. When I say hunger, can you point to it in a hand or a pocket? Is it in the mouth or in a bank ledger? No. No, it is a pressure in consciousness that whispers, I must have. Now, if we touch that whisper, if we bring it into the light and answer it with one sentence, watch what happens. I want nothing you have. Listen again. I want nothing you have, and you want nothing I have. Peace becomes possible. That is the startling promise, the only promise that can end war in a heart, a house, or a nation. I want nothing you have. Not spoken as a tactic, not spoken to shame or to win, spoken because the life of me is of God. All that the Father hath is mine. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. If this is true, and it is law, not poetry, then I have nothing to take from you, and nothing for you to withhold from me. Where there is nothing to take, there is nothing to fight about. Where there is nothing to bargain for, there is nothing to threaten. Do not misunderstand me. This is not withdrawal, not coldness, not a mask of superiority. It is not weakness that refuses to contend because it is afraid of losing. It is freedom from the ancient marketplace in which souls try to buy breath from one another. It is the end of bargaining for life through another person's approval, body, money, silence, or praise. You cannot make peace while secretly reaching for an advantage. No, not a bit. Even if the lips are smiling, if the heart is making a bid, the law is being tested, and the penalty is conflict. Be not deceived. God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Love is not a preference, it is a law. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, not because it suits us or flatters our philosophy, but because reality is one. Violate a traffic law, and the steel will teach you. Violate mathematics, and the bridge will fall. Violate love, and harmony collapses in upon the violator. Do not tamper with a cosmic law. It is a double-edged sword. If you try to use it to get, it will carve the getting out of you. If you yield to it and let it be, it will be your protection and your supply. The law of love is plain clothes, every day, inevitable. Obey it and live. So we set the posture now, not of contest, but of consecration. We are not here to win arguments. We are here to come under a law that heals. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. I am not in the physical. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. I and my Father are one, and in that oneness, I lack nothing, I fear nothing, I want nothing that is another's. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Say it until it says you. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And so let us begin this work with a vow that is not made to a person but to principle. I will not try to live my life out of your pockets, your moods, your praise, or your submission. I want nothing you have, because I have found the well within that never runs dry. I would rather let God be the actor and the doer and the beer in the midst of us than manipulate a single breath of yours. When you and I meet within that law, not as beggars but as beings, then the miracle that Scripture promises ceases to be a miracle and becomes the natural order. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Peace becomes possible because taking has ended, and conflict, having lost its engine, has nowhere to live. Let us be very honest now, because law respects only honesty. The appetite to take rarely introduces itself as greed. It comes in Sunday clothes. It speaks softly. It says, I only need a little attention. I only need reassurance. I only need you to see that I'm right. I only need a little control so things don't fall apart. I only need you to stop being you for a moment so I can feel safe. Now, is that wicked speech? No. No. It is not speech at all. It is pressure. It is motive. It is the subtle draft that forms in consciousness the instant I elect you as my source. The moment I say, life is over there in your approval, in your praise, in your surrender. I have enthroned a second God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. The instant I bow to the God of your consent, I have begun to take, even if my hands are folded and my voice is kind. Do not mistake this for mere communication. It is not communication alone. Two can speak and be free. It is not personality. A strong personality does not necessarily take. It is motive. The line is drawn where a so-called need fastens a hook into another's soul. There the taking begins polite, justified, respectable. But coveting in a tuxedo is coveting still. The Scripture has not stuttered. Thou shalt not covet. Why? Not to shame you, but to spare you from the inevitable consequence of worshiping a lack that God has not authored. Consider how quickly desire manufactures an enemy. The moment I want something from you, you are no longer a neighbor. You are a supplier. If you hand it over, my insecurity calls it love. If you hold it back, my insecurity names you danger. You did nothing but exist. Nevertheless, desire drew a line, and at that invisible frontier the war already started. From whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not hence even of your lusts? It is not politics first. It is not economics first. It is the privatized altar in the heart where we burn offerings to our cravings and then ask God to call it prayer. Ye ask and receive not, because ye ask amiss, that ye may consume it upon your lusts. Hard words? No. Saving words, law words. Do not tamper with a cosmic law. If you harness love to pull your wagon of personal getting, the harness will burn you before it moves an inch. Law is impartial. It cannot be bribed with tears. Violate mathematics and the bridge does not hold up because you meant well. Violate love and harmony does not remain because you said, please. This is not condemnation. This is warning for your safety. There can be no selfish purpose in a cosmic law. If by motive you secretly appoint another as the dispenser of your worth, your peace, your stability, you have placed your security under human management, and the penalty is fear. Fear, when nursed, becomes resentment. Resentment, when armed, becomes conflict. And all the while the other has done nothing but refuse your idol. Now bring this nearer. In the home, how does it begin? I need you to agree with me so I can be right. I need you to speak just so I can be soothed. I need you to change so I can avoid meeting my God within. In the office, how does it begin? I need credit. I need control. I need your silence so my insecurity does not echo in the boardroom, in the nation. How does it begin? We need your resources, your land, your deference, your vote to confirm our self-image. At every scale, the same invisible theft. We reach outside for a self we only find within. And in that reaching, we create opponents out of neighbors. This is diagnosis, not despair. The remedy is not more taking dressed up as diplomacy. It is not cleverness, not flattery, not manipulation by word or tone or so-called energy. No, it is the cessation of idolatry, the relinquishment of second gods. When I cease to draft you into the role of my life source, you cease to be my threat. When I return to the one source, the one life, the one law, then perfect love casteth out fear. Say it softly until it says you, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. In that sufficiency, the craving engine idles and stops. And then we can ask, with clean hands and a quiet heart, if desire to take manufactures the enemy, how do we end the war at home, in the office, in the nation? We end it at the altar where the false need is offered up and where the real I discovers it wants nothing you have because God is here. Love is not a preference. It is a law, and law cannot be cheated. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself is not a sentiment to embroider on a pillow. It is as exact as 2 times 2 are 4, and as unavoidable as gravity. You may cry against gravity when you jump from a roof, but you will not negotiate a softer landing through sincerity. You may argue with arithmetic, but no bridge stands because you meant well while misplacing a digit. In like manner, to violate love is to bring down upon oneself the exact result that belongs to the violation, not because a deity is angry, but because reality is one and unbreakable. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Think of it this way. In traffic, there are lines painted not to restrict joy, but to preserve it. Cross the line at will, call it freedom, and the steel will instruct you with a lesson you will not forget. In engineering, there are load limits, foundations, tolerances. Call them old-fashioned if you wish, but build a tower with a weak footing, and the wind will discover the truth without asking your permission. So with love, it is the load-bearing foundation of human being. You may erect the proudest arguments, the loftiest philosophies, but if you place the weight of your life on taking, the first storm of contradiction will send it down, and you will call it tragedy while it is simply consequence. Do not tamper with a cosmic law. It is a double-edged sword. If you harness love to pull the cart of self-advantage, it will cut the harness and the hand that tries to bind it. If you align with it quietly, without motive, it will carry you and heal you, because it is your native principle. This is not punishment and reward. It is mathematics. 2 and 2 are 4 for the saint and the scoundrel alike. Love is law for the gentle and the stubborn alike. You cannot cheat a law. You can only obey it and live, or violate it and suffer the precise weight of your own act. And let me say what love is not. Love is not indulgence. Love is not covering another's idolatry with silence while your fear calls it kindness. Love is non-injury, non-theft, non-manipulation, first in the secret chambers of thought and motive, then in word and deed. It does not steal peace by extracting compliance. It does not injure by sharpening the tone while the lips recite scripture. It does not manipulate by gaze or gesture or so-called energy. With what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again. The measure is motive. When the heart is reaching to take, even in robes of politeness, the law records it, and the harvest grows of its own accord. Now, this does not mean you become a doormat. Not a bit. Law does not make you weak. It makes you true. Non-injury does not forsake wisdom. Non-theft does not abandon boundary. Love meets evil not with appeasement, but with the absence of personal will, which deprives evil of fuel. Love refuses to battle for what God has already given. Love refuses to accept life from another's fear or favor. It stands under the government of the one. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. This is not poetry. This is compliance with law. Say it until it says you. Then see how resentment loses its oxygen and how the quarrel cannot locate you to land a blow. The price of violating love is built into the act as surely as collision is built into reckless driving. When you secretly appoint another as your supply and then tighten the reins to extract it, the same reins enclose your throat. Fear, born of false dependence, becomes the air you breathe. The mind that schemes to take imagines a world scheming to take from it and finds its own imagination staring back from every face. But where love is honored as law, the imagination is cleansed. The neighbor ceases to be a supplier and returns to being a neighbor. Peace is not negotiated, it appears, because you have ceased to tax another's life to pay your debts. If then love is law, impersonal, inexorable, safe, what is this I that must obey it? Who is the one that loves or violates? If the I is a personal bundle of lack and history, it will surely take and then plead philosophy to justify its hunger. But if the I is what Scripture announces, I and my Father are one, then love is natural, effortless, the only possible way to be. We must ask before we speak, before we demand, before we even explain, who says I? And we must be still long enough for the answer that is not formed by lips. In that stillness, the law ceases to be a command and becomes our nature, and in that nature, taking has no home. When you say I, where is it? Point to it. Is it behind the eyes? If the eyes are closed, did the eye go out like a lamp at dusk? Is it in the chest where the breath warms the ribs? When the heart rate quickens, has the eye grown taller? Is it in a story you tell from yesterday to justify a feeling today? No, no. The eye that wants, that fears, that argues its case as if a court is in session, where is it really? If you cannot hand it to me in your palm, then perhaps it is not where you have assumed it to be. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. Your spiritual you isn't confined to the material body. You can't leave it because you aren't in it, and you never have been in it. The body is an instrument and a servant. It is not the dwelling of the I. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. When I say I am acknowledging a presence, a life, a being that does not begin at skin and end at skin. In Him we live and move and have our being. Not merely in Scripture, but in fact. Now see this. The personal sense, the counterfeit I, lives by acquiring. It must be affirmed by praise, fed by agreement, protected by control. It is a beggar with royal appetites. It enters the room sniffing for supply and calls its hunger my needs. It trembles at contradiction because contradiction threatens its borrowed life. It cannot love because it trades. It cannot rest because it calculates. It must take in order to exist. That is why, as long as you identify the I as this bundle of memory, fear, pride, and injury, you are conscripting the universe to pay your bills, and the law will answer with conflict, not because God is against you, but because God is not in that illusion. Replace it. Do not argue with a mirage. Turn on the light. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Hear that. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. If that is true, and it is law, then the I that I am is already complete, already supplied, already safe in the infinite. In my oneness with God, I lack nothing that must be pried from a neighbor. In my oneness with God, I have nothing to fear from a neighbor's withholding. I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. When that becomes the felt fact, taking dissolves. There is nothing to take because there is no separate source out there. There is only the one flowing. How then do we speak without taking? We do not begin by clever words. We begin by changing the consciousness that speaks. Before the tongue moves, the heart must relocate, delocalize the self. Be still and know that I am God. In that stillness, the center slides from personality to presence. Silence the urge to be right, to be seen, to be paid. Sit, if you can, enough to forget the body for a moment, no occult reason, only to remove the bodily intrusion and wait. I wait in a state of receptivity until finally, without drama, the click comes. In that instant, you will know God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. The words that come then do not cover an outcome. They carry no hooks. They either arise or they don't, but there is peace either way, because the I is not a beggar anymore. This is not passivity. It is obedience to law. When speech proceeds from a personal sense, it is bargaining disguised as dialogue. When speech proceeds from conscious union, it is impartation without theft. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Say it until it says you. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Then watch how the grip loosens in the chest, how the eyes soften, not because you practiced a technique, but because there is nothing to get. And now we are ready for a holy restraint that is the guardian of peace. If I am not the personal I, then I have no authority to manage, adjust, or manipulate another soul's consciousness by word, tone, or so-called energy. I will not live off your response. I will not fix you to quiet my fear. From this place of non-local identity, love is not a project. It is our shared atmosphere. I and my Father are one, and in that oneness my neighbor and I meet as beings, not as beggars. Here taking ends before a syllable is spoken, and the law of love finds nothing to oppose it. Let us draw the boundary now, because love without boundary becomes license to harm in spiritual clothing. Do not use truth as a tool to move another person. Do not wield Scripture as a lever to pry open an apology. Do not pronounce "I want nothing you have" as a tactic to make them change. That is theft with a halo. It is interference dressed in virtue, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. If you attempt to push with words, with tone, with gaze, with so-called energy, you have shifted from God as the actor to self as the engineer. And self, attempting to run a cosmic law, will be run over by it. Do not tamper with a cosmic law. It is a double-edged sword. I never give human advice, not a bit. I have studiously avoided mental and physical contact. I do not tell you to leave or to stay, to speak or to be silent, to fight or to yield. Why? Because the moment I appoint myself your manager, I have imagined a second God, my will over your life. Thou shalt have no other gods. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. If there is guidance, it will rise within you from the same source that sustains me. My duty is not to bend you. It is to be so empty of agenda that the presence may bear witness to itself, if it so wills. Without my fingers on the scale, understand this shift. The goal here is not to extract an apology, not to get understanding, not to arrange compliance. The goal is to remove the taking motive in me. When the hook is taken from my heart, there is nothing in me for strife to fasten on. Judge not, that ye be not judged. Judgment is a kind of taking the role of arbiter over another's consciousness. When I renounce that, I lay down the very weapon that keeps the war alive. Peace begins when you renounce the attempt to manage another person's consciousness. See how interference backfires. Pressure invites resistance. Resistance becomes your proof of separation. Then you say, you see, they are stubborn. And that verdict justifies a little more pressure, a little sharper tone, a more spiritual sounding argument. Soon you are interfering not only with their choices, but with their breath. With what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again. The push in you returns as push in them. The line you draw widens the gulf, and each party swears the gap was there from the beginning. It was not. You drove a wedge where law would have built a bridge, and now you blame the timber. Do not call manipulation love. Love does not trespass. Love does not so much as lean on the scale of another soul's freedom. Love prays, Father, glorify thyself, and then becomes quiet. Love does not try to fix, not with words, not with silence used as punishment, not with a saintly sigh that says, if only you would awaken. The very sigh is a theft. It tries to draw virtue to the self while casting shadow on the neighbor. No. If you must sigh, sigh inwardly, and let it dissolve into, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. If we do not interfere outwardly, what then is our method? Receptivity. Always receptivity. Enter the inner room. Close the door on the senses, not for occult reasons, but to remove the bodily intrusion, and wait in this position with the eyes closed. Become virtually unaware of having a body. Let the mind cease its arranging. Be still and know that I am God. I wait in a state of receptivity until, without sound or light, the click comes. Then, whether a word is given or a silence is given, there is no hook in it. If a word is given, it is not to persuade, but to reveal. If silence is given, it is not to punish, but to rest in presence. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. And if nothing seems to come, do not manufacture. Do not reach for a technique of tone or a posture of moral height. Sit again as often as needed, and let the motive be purified until it is nearly nothing at all. Seek not the other's change. Seek the disappearance of your claim upon them. In my conscious oneness with God, I find my completeness, my security, my peace. In that sufficiency there is nothing to take, and therefore nothing to press upon another. Strangely, wondrously, when the pressure stops, harmony has space to appear. Sometimes the other softens, sometimes they do not. Peace remains either way because its cause is not in them, it is in God. So we set the God on our lips and on our subtle intentions. We practice holy non-interference. We decline to manage minds. We choose silence over strategy, receptivity over force. And we keep the password of our liberty near, repeating it until it repeats us. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. In that grace, the hands unclench, the argument cannot find a handle, and the kingdom draws near, not by our might, not by our plan, but by the quiet government of love. Let us make it very plain and very simple. There is no mystery trick here, no occult apparatus, no secret posture with a promise attached. Choose a chair that is comfortable, low enough that your feet rest firmly on the floor without strain. Sit upright but unforced. Let the hands rest, not clasped in tension, not propping the head, simply relaxed in the lap. Never rest your elbows in a way that tightens the neck. Close the eyes, not because darkness is holy, but to remove the bodily intrusion. Breathe as you breathe when you are not thinking about breathing. There is no technique to the lungs. We are not practicing breath. We are practicing beholding. Now, when you enter, you do not enter with a shopping list. Do not bring the argument. Do not bring their face before your inner eye as if the temple were a courtroom and you were preparing exhibits. Do not ask God to fix them. No, no, we are not repairmen of personalities. Be still and know that I am God. That is the entire instruction. Desireless waiting, not a demand, not a plea, not a bargain. Settle into the awareness that there is a presence here without your help, a life here without your managing, a law here that does not consult your anxiety before acting. To steady the wandering attention, take the password the masters have always given and let it carry you only so far as silence. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Say it once, twice, 3 times, not hammered, not shouted, breathed. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Then set it down and wait. If it returns of its own accord, receive it. If it does not, do not drag it back. We are not using words to move God. We are allowing a word to unhook us from motive. You will notice the temptation to rehearse the case, to polish a future sentence, to invent a godly-sounding tone for when you rise. Let it pass. Each rehearsal is taking in disguise. It is a draft on the other's soul, written in advance. Lay it down. Return to desireless waiting. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Not stand scheming, stand still. And then, sometimes in 10 seconds, sometimes after 10 minutes, sometimes not today, but soon enough, a shift. I can only call it the click. Do not look for thunder. Do not expect fireworks. It is a soft, decisive release, as if a hand you did not know was clenched suddenly opens of its own accord. The strain drops. The breath deepens without trying. The room widens. The thought of them loses its barbs. A quiet assurance takes the throne where argument sat. I and my Father are one. In that moment, you are not reaching for union, you are recognizing union. In that recognition, love ceases to be an effort and becomes your nature. Do not move too quickly. Rest there a little, even if only for a breath or two. You will find that in the click there is no appetite, there is no plan to persuade, there is no future speech rehearsing itself. There is presence self-sufficient, self-complete, self-expressing, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. If a word is given, it will be clean. If silence is given, it will be full. If action is required, it will not be urgent, it will be obvious. From this inner place, when at last you rise, the sentence is not a technique, it is a truth. I want nothing you have. It will not come out as a weapon, it will not come out as a bargain. It will appear, perhaps not even in speech, but in atmosphere, and the other will feel not the refusal of love, but the absence of demand. And where demand is absent, resistance has no use, and war cannot find a landing field. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. If on some days you wait and the click does not come, do not manufacture it. Do not paste a pious statement over an agitated heart. Close the period gently and return later. 10 honest seconds of God are more potent than 30 minutes of spiritual theater. Keep to the simple way, comfort, stillness, eyes closed, desireless waiting, the password and the willingness to stop short of making anything happen. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. In that sufficiency, the taker in us starves without pain, and the giver appears without effort. Then the sentence works. Not because we pressed it into service, but because silence birthed it and law, obeyed in the secret place, carries it into the open with power. Now we must translate the sentence correctly, or we will turn a key into a dagger. I want nothing you have is not a cold shoulder in spiritual clothing. It is not detachment as punishment. It is not an emotional cutoff that says, I need no one, therefore I am superior. No, no. Pride is still taking moral height to feed an insecure self. Contempt is still stealing your brother's worth to pay your own bill. And withdrawal used as leverage is still taxing the other with your silence until they yield. That is not our way. That is bargaining with a new vocabulary. Hear its right meaning. I will not use you as the source of my life. I do not require you to supply my peace, my worth, my safety, my joy. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. If that is true and it is law, then my demand upon you evaporates. I am not saying I don't need love. I am saying I do not extract life from your response. I do not enthrone your moods as my God. I do not mortgage my stability to your approval. My God shall supply all your need according to his riches and glory. When that is realized, the sentence ceases to be a posture and becomes a freedom. Love is free to be love because it is not on a payroll. This is the ethical flip, the end of bargaining, the beginning of cooperation. Love without an agenda. Love seeketh not her own. When I want nothing you have, I am finally able to give without secretly collecting. I do not give to get an apology. I do not listen to win a future concession. I do not smile to manipulate the climate in the room. I give because freely ye have received, freely give. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea, and therefore but his. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. To keep the sentence pure, examine the heart before you speak. Ask quietly, what do I want from them right now? Agreement? Name it. Apology? Name it. Affection? Name it. Submission? Recognition? Repayment? Control? A guarantee? Name it. Each named desire is a hook. Place the hook on the altar and let it burn. Whisper without strain. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Then pause. Feel whether any residue of bargain remains. If it does, name and release again. Do not make a ceremony of it. 10 honest seconds are sufficient when the heart is ready. When the last hook loosens, the sentence will be clean. I want nothing you have. Understand what this does not mean. It does not mean you accept abuse, enable folly, or discard wisdom. Not a bit. Boundary is not bargaining. It is clarity. When the motive to take has been purified, a no does not injure and a yes does not manipulate. A no arises as safety without spite. A yes arises as service without self-erasement. Law governs both. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. The measure is motive, not theater. Then watch what happens to the field between you. Without the suction of demand, conversation breathes. Without the pressure of hidden invoices, cooperation appears. You will find yourself able to say, tell me how you see it, and you will mean it. You will find yourself able to listen without loading the scale. And strangely, not by might nor by calculation, common ground rises where before there was only mud. Peace has a place to land because you have vacated the port of taking. This translation prepares us for proof. Do not imagine that realization must wait for grand occasion. The proving ground is always at hand, in the kitchen where a tone could escalate or dissolve, at the office where credit could be seized or shared, at the family table where old accounts beg to be collected. There, sentence rightly understood becomes atmosphere. Nothing to take, everything to give. And from that atmosphere, we proceed home first, then work, then the long corridors of memory under the quiet banner, Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Let us bring it home to the kitchen, where theology is tested by dishes and tone. The clock reads later than the promise. The last plate clicks into the sink. Footsteps at the door. A breath that could be a welcome or a verdict depending on who reaches first for fuel. You always say you'll be here by 7. You never appreciate what I carry. The words are familiar, but beneath them, what is the hidden draft being written on the other's account? Pay me with apology, with assurance, with proof, with control. Name it rightly and you will see. The quarrel is not about a plate or a clock. It is about taking. Now the inner step must precede the mouth. Put down the spoon. Do not lift the gavel. Be still. 10 honest seconds will do when the heart is willing. Turn within and whisper, not as magic but as release. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Say it until it says you. Then, quietly, let the sentence rise without bargain. I want nothing you have, not your instant contrition, not your correction of the past, not your promise signed in tomorrow's ink. I am not sourcing my peace from your response. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. You will feel the change. The shoulders stop prosecuting. The breath ceases to argue with the rib cage. Sometimes the click comes at once, sometimes only the edge softens, but even the edge softening is the law moving. Then speak, if speech is given. Fewer words, no scorekeeping, no Exhibit A from last month's calendar, a clean fact, a clean care. It matters to me that we keep our agreements. I'm going to plate dinner while it's warm. If you'd like to plan the week after we eat, I'm here. Or I hear that you're tired, I'm going to finish the kitchen. I don't need an answer now. That is not passivity, that is non-taking. A soft answer turneth away wrath, not because softness manipulates, but because it offers nothing for wrath to feed upon. When the taker in you has gone on a fast, watch what starves in the room. Where no wood is, there the fire goeth out. A quarrel feeds on hidden invoices. Remove the invoice, and the flame must hunt elsewhere or die. Sometimes it dies at once. The other, who came armored to defend against your demand, finds no demand, drops the shield, and even laughs at the absurdity of the ghost. Sometimes it dies slowly. A habit of years unwinds, like a tight spring releasing itself over many evenings. Either way, the law is exact. When you stop taking in an argument, you stop supplying the argument's life. This does not mean you erase boundaries, not a bit. You may say a clean no with no barb in it. I won't discuss this while we are both overtired. Let's take it in the morning. I will not be shouted at. I am stepping outside for a while. Yea, yea, and nay, nay. The measure is motive. There is no leveraging of absence, no punishment cloaked as calm. It is simply the refusal to draw life from another's reaction, coupled with the willingness to be true to the good. Charity seeketh not her own. Love does not stand on their neck to breathe. What of deeper wounds, betrayal, disrespect, long patterns that have learned your doorbell? The law does not change because the weather worsens. Gravity holds in a storm. Love is law, still governs. Here the practice must be steadier and the silence longer. Enter often. Let the hooks burn as many mornings and evenings as required. Keep to desireless receptivity until the click comes, and if it comes only as a thread some days, take the thread and do not embroider it with self-will. From that union, take the stance that is given. Sometimes speech, sometimes distance, always non-taking. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. The outcome may be swift or not. Repentance may appear or not. Peace does not depend on it. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In that oneness, the household is no longer a marketplace of needs, but a temple of sufficiency. Blessed are the peacemakers, not because they engineer better tactics, but because they withdraw the tribute that fed the war. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. From that grace, the home learns a new climate. Arguments come to the door and read the air, and finding nothing to tax, go away unpaid. And peace, not as the world giveth, but as he giveth, takes the table, breaks the bread, and stays. Now take this out of the kitchen and into the office, where the currency is quieter, but the taking is often more refined. What does taking look like here? It wants recognition, not as a simple acknowledgement of work, but as breath. It wants status title on the card to steady a trembling self. It wants to be indispensable, to keep the keys so others must come through its door. It wants to make others wrong so that it can be right by contrast. It punishes through silence, no reply to the email, no seat at the meeting, the cold corridor of exclusion that says, feel my absence until you pay. It lobbies under the banner of alignment. It flatters as a means to an end. It loads praise with a hook to reel in a favor later. This is not management. It is spiritual debt collection, and it breeds a culture of concealed war. Enter as we have learned, not with techniques, but with truth. Before you craft a sentence or a strategy, take 10 honest seconds and move the center. Close the eyes for a moment at your desk, no occult reason, only to remove the bodily intrusion and whisper, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Let the desire to be seen lose its urgency. Then inwardly translate the key. I want nothing. You have your title, your approval, your fear, your defeat. I will not source my life from your recognition, nor build my worth on your mistake. For promotion cometh neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south, but God is the judge. If that is true and it is law, then what can I possibly extract from you that would improve what God already is as my sufficiency? Now watch what changes without a single outward announcement. You stop lobbying. You stop the subtle management of optics. You stop returning a colleague sharpness with a cooler sharpness of your own. You do your work as unto the Lord and not unto men. Not because you expect a halo, but because God is the actor and the doer and the beer. You are merely the instrument. Credit, when it comes, is not a tax you must collect. If a report carries your fingerprints, name them if asked, but do not clutch. If a manager praises you for another's contribution, cleanse the air. Jenner's analysis opened the way. That is not self-erasure. That is law obeyed. Freely ye have received. Freely give. In a culture trained to hoard advantage, generosity detonates the economy of fear. Consider the email that misrepresents you. The ego reaches for a wide copy list and a perfect strike. Do not, be still. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. If correction is needed, offer it simply to the right person. Once, no sarcasm, no echo. Where no wood is, the fire goeth out. When you withhold the wood of humiliation and revenge, combustion cannot continue. Or the project meeting where your suggestion lands and another repeats it louder and gathers the nods, the taker in you rises to seize the room back. Let it pass. If the work must be guided, guide it. If the record must be set straight, set it with a single clean sentence when the opening is given. But decline the gladiator's match. You are not here to be indispensable. You are here to be useful. In my conscious oneness with God, I find my completeness, my security, my peace. From completeness, usefulness is the only ambition left. Non-interference belongs here too. Do not practice spiritual weather control on your team. Do not play tones, postures, and crafted pauses like instruments to bend minds. Withdraw from gossip, yes, even the humorous kind that binds a team by belittling an absent one. Gossip is it steals another's standing to enrich the group's feeling of closeness. Love seeketh not her own. When talk turns, do not scold. Quietly redirect to the work or become silent without disdain. A silence that punishes is taking. A silence that refuses to trade in shadows is freedom. In this atmosphere, cooperation becomes possible. The colleague who has braced for your hunger finds none and relaxes. The rival discovers you will not steal, will not undercut, will not charge interest on access, and a surprising thing happens. He stops guarding his door. Sometimes he does not. Sometimes the outer game continues as before. Peace remains either way because its cause is not in him. It is in God. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. Do not mistake this for naivete. Wisdom still watches budgets, timelines, and patterns, yea, yea, and nay, nay. You may decline a misaligned task without barbs. You may document your work without trumpets. You may set boundaries on hours and scope without turning them into weapons. The measure is motive. When hunger for advantage has been renounced, a no safeguards the work, a yes serves the work. Neither one steals. Practice this a week, and notice how breath returns to rooms that had been trading oxygen for advantage. Practice it a year, and you will see that your place becomes less a battlefield and more a field. And as you gather proof there, you will be prepared for the hardest arena of all, not measured by titles and budgets, but by blood and memory, where old debts seem oldest, and the appetite for repayment dresses itself as justice. We are going there next under the same banner that has carried us thus far. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Now we come to the long corridor of family, where names carry weather and dates open doors we thought were sealed. Do not minimize it. History hurts. Memory returns uninvited. Patterns repeat as if a hand behind the curtain were pulling the same rope. The mind says, if only they would admit it, if only they would pay back what was taken, time, tenderness, money, youth. I honor the weight of it. There is no piety in pretending that a broken bone does not ache in the rain. Rachel weeping for her children was not cured by a slogan. Moral seriousness belongs here. Yet see the engine beneath the ache, for only then can the law release you. The desire to take reappears, now sanctified by injury. Make them confess. Make them suffer a little. Extract understanding with interest. Force a change so I can breathe. That is taking in the judge's robe. Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. When you grasp the gavel, you do not hold justice, you violate law. As you sow, so shall ye reap. If you press for tribute, tribute will press you. Love seeketh not her own. Love does not collect toll on the bridge to yesterday. Where then is freedom? Begin where we have always begun. Enter the inner room and remove the bodily intrusion. Sit, close the eyes, not for occult reason, only to be still and say quietly, Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Bring no indictment, bring only the ache. Do not ask God to change them. No. No. Let the older man show itself. I want repayment, apology, proof, reversal of time. Name it and place it on the altar. Wait. I wait in a state of receptivity until the click comes. Sometimes it comes as a tear. Sometimes as a soft unclenching of a fist you did not know you carried. In that moment, speak inwardly the sentence, not as theater, but as truth. I want nothing you have, not your apology, not your shame, not your revised story. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Now the hidden prisoner must also be released. The self called the injured one. You have as much right to forgive yourself 70 times 7 as you have to forgive your neighbor. Stop reliving the role that feeds on pity or power. If any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Your spiritual you isn't confined to the material body or its dated history. You can't leave a past because you aren't in it and never have been in it, not the real you. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. From this oneness, your identity is not stitched from debts and scenes, but from sufficiency. As far as the east is from the west, So far hath he removed our transgressions. Receive that removal for yourself, and the hook of grievance loses its ring. Does this mean passivity? Not a bit. Love is lawful. Yea, yea, and nay, nay. From sufficiency, you may say, a clean no without hatred. I will not loan money into this pattern. I will not remain in a room where insults are the language. I am stepping away. I won't rehearse the past tonight. If you wish to talk, we can schedule a counseling appointment. Boundary without barb. Clarity without contempt. Non-taking does not license harm. It removes the appetite that turns boundary into battle. Tested in the ordinary. The phone rings. The familiar tone starts its path. Feel the draft for repayment rise, recognition, remorse. A certain word you have been waiting 10 years to hear. Pause. 10 honest seconds. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Let the click come or wait until it does. Then answer simply, or do not answer now. If you speak, let it be one clean sentence without invoice. Where no wood is, there the fire goeth out. Remove the wood of debt collection, and the flame must seek other weather. So we release repayment as our source, and we keep wisdom as our God. We forgive our debtors, and we also stop writing new bills. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness, my security, my peace. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. What was meant for evil, God means unto good when the taking ceases. And so, Father, let thy law govern our houses and our histories. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. In that grace, accounts close, love remains, and war has nowhere to live. Now, even with all this, a whisper rises from the old chamber. If I want nothing, will I be unloved? If I stop taking, will I be unsafe, overlooked, forgotten? If I do not draw on them, will I simply disappear? The ego calls this death. It says, your needs will go unanswered. Your worth will be swallowed. Your life will become a blank. No, no, that is not the voice of truth. That is the last bargaining cry of a self afraid to be without tribute. You are not sustained by another person's supply. You are sustained by grace. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Not because people finally behave, but because God is God. Listen carefully. The fear says, if I release demand, I will have nothing. But you are not a beggar in a marketplace. You are a son, a daughter, an heir. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. You are not in the physical, scrap by scrap, feeding off acknowledgments and coins of approval. Your spiritual you isn't confined to the material body or the changing weather of other minds. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In that oneness, there is food you know not of supply, companionship, guidance, safety, unborrowed, unbought, unbargained. Perfect love casteth out fear. And perfect love is not a mood in another. It is God expressing as the fact of your being. Do not confuse desire with taking. This is where refinement enters. You may ask, you may negotiate, you may plan, you may build a budget, set a schedule, sign a contract. Yea, yea, and nay, nay. Do it all but remove the hook. No threat. No identity on the line. No ultimatum that says, be my source or I will punish you with my storm. That is the difference between a clean request and a life draft. A clean request is information. A life draft is idolatry. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. When motive is purified, action becomes simple. A yes serves the task, not the hunger. A no guards the good, not the ego. And should the other decline your request, you do not collapse. Why? Because your life did not ride on their answer. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. The ego, cornered, will offer a last bargain. Very well, I will want nothing if first they promise to love, if first the raise appears, if first the apology is mailed. Again, no, no. That is still taking, only now it dresses itself in conditions. Law cannot be cheated. As you sow, so shall you reap. Sow peace, reap peace. Sow taking, reap conflict. Do not wait for another to tender the right weather. Plant the right seed in your own consciousness. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. If you seed the field with threat, you will harvest thorns. If you seed it with none-taking love, you will harvest peace, even if that peace arrives first within, then without. How then to live when the fear still trembles? We do exactly as we have learned. Return to the inner room and wait without scheme. Be still and know that I am God. Whisper only enough to unhook the grasp. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Then wait for the click. If tears come, let them cleanse without story. If silence comes, let it fill without plan. Rise only when the appetite has slackened. From there, speak simply or do not speak. Ask plainly or do not ask today. Practice this not once, but as a daily discipline before you answer, before you text, before you decide, until desireless sufficiency becomes your new climate. You will find over days and weeks that the dread of nothing turns into the ease of everything given. The room in which you once bartered begins to feel like a field in which life grows of itself, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. The fear that you would be unloved is answered by a love that is no longer on wages. The fear that you would be unsafe is answered by a safety that does not depend on their God. The fear that you would be overlooked is answered by a presence that never blinks. I and my Father are one. I cannot be left out of what I am one with. So let us refine every edge. When nothing still feels like loss, remember, the loss is only the appetite relinquished. The gain is freedom. The ego calls it death. Grace reveals it as life. And as you keep to this way, sowing peace in secret thought, removing the hook before every word, the law fulfills itself openly. Peace returns, not as a bargain won, but as the natural harvest of sufficiency realized. And war, finding no demand to feed, has nowhere to live. Now we must bind this way into our hours, because peace is not an event. It is a law obeyed and a presence welcomed. Practice peace before words, silence first, then speech. Not sometime, not only on large occasions. Before you speak, before you text, before you decide, in 3 steps. Simple but not shallow. Precise but never mechanical. Step 1 is stop. Interrupt the impulse to correct, defend, or demand. You will feel the body reach for the reins. The chest tightens, the jaw sets, the thumb hovers over, send, the tongue gathers sentences like arrows in a quiver. Do not obey it, feel it, yes. Taste the urgency in the ribs and let it be there without making it your master. Be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. Put the phone down. Unhook the index finger from the reply button. Lift your eyes off the person's face and onto no object at all. There is no occult reason for any posture only to remove the bodily intrusion long enough to be free. Stop. A clean break in the momentum is the first mercy. Step 2 is silence. Do not craft an argument. Do not rehearse what you will say when it is your turn. Whisper only enough to unhook the grasp. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Say it softly, without strain, as if laying down a tool. Close the eyes for 10 honest seconds or a minute if the heart requires it. Be still and know that I am God. Let the shoulders descend from their trial. Let the breath stop being a messenger of urgency and return to being breath. Wait in receptivity. Do not try to make anything happen. I wait until the click comes. Sometimes it is a warmth under the breastbone. Sometimes it is a simple loss of pressure. Sometimes only a thread of quiet, but the thread is enough. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. When the pressure drops, even slightly, you have left the marketplace and entered the temple. Step 3 is statement. From this quiet, not from will, say inwardly, I want nothing you have. I offer what I can in love. Do not rush past those words. Feel what they remove. The hook of approval, the invoice for apology, the grab for control. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Now speak or write or decide simply. One clean sentence is often best, yea, yea, and nay, nay. If you speak, speak as information, not as leverage. If you text, text without an undertone of threat. If you decide, choose as a steward, not as a taker. You are not using this moment to get. You are consenting to be used for good. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. You are merely the instrument. Here is the safeguard that keeps the ritual honest. If the click has not come, delay the message. Do not act from hunger. Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. Keep the door of my lips. Tell the other you will respond after you have thought. Save the draft and walk once around the block. Let the night put a hand on your shoulder. Where no wood is, there the fire goeth out. If you withhold the wood of urgency and the kindling of demand, combustion cannot continue. To wait is not to abandon. It is to refuse to trade in a currency that destroys the buyer and the seller alike. Do not mistake this for self-improvement, not a bit. This is not polishing the old self until it shines with better manners. This is yielding to the divine action already present, not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, the wisdom to speak or keep silence, to write or refrain, is not manufactured, it is revealed. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow silence before speech, reap peace within speech. Sow sufficiency before decision, reap guidance within decision. Make of this a habit as natural as breathing. Stop, silence, statement. Before breakfast conversations, before the noon email, before the late night memory that tempts you to text history into the present, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. Let that peace precede your words until your words begin to carry its climate. And when you forget, because you will stop where you remember and begin again, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, I wait until the click comes, then, only then, I speak or do not speak, I send or do not send, I choose or I wait. In that obedience, love becomes practical and conflict loses its oxygen. And the day, stitched with these pauses, becomes a garment of quiet strength. Now we widen the circle. Homes and offices are the training ground, but the same law governs school boards, city councils, parliaments, and borders. What is a war but organized, taking armies of invoices, marching under flags, treaties drafted as bills of account, budgets assembled to collect security at compound interest? Scripture asked it long ago, From whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not hence even of your lusts? Ye lust and have not. Desire for taking is the engine. It creates an enemy even if the other has not yet lifted a hand. And when a nation confuses its safety with its appetite, it conscripts its children to collect its debts in blood. The remedy is not new and not optional. It is law. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Not a sentiment, not a negotiation, a law. You may violate a traffic law and pay a fine, violate the law of love, and you pay with the climate of your culture. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. It is no different from mathematics. You can insist that 2 times 2 is 5, but you do not change the principle. You only bring the building down on your head. So too in politics. Sow advantage as a god, and you reap suspicion as a harvest. So sufficiency, nothing to take, everything to give, and cooperation appears of itself, not as charity but as sanity. Do not say, but we must protect ourselves. Of course, yea, yea, and nay, nay. Love does not erase wisdom, it removes hunger. A boundary written in sufficiency is a wall that bears fruit on both sides. A boundary written in appetite is a siege. Nation to nation, party to party, church to church, when motive is purified of taking credit, control, revenge, creativity, rushes in like air into a room long shut. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, not by committee alone, but because the inner metal has softened in the fire of sufficiency. Where no wood is, there the fire goeth out. Remove the wood of grievance-based identity, and the blaze of perpetual crisis finds no fuel. Now hear the charge that keeps us safe while we move among these large rooms. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. Do not try to manage a legislature with your thoughts or bend a diplomat's mind with energies. No, no. Non-interference is still the ethic. Enter the inner room. Be still. Desire nothing from the other side but God's will revealed as good. Wait until the click comes. From that oneness, speak the sentence, not to them, but to God within. I want nothing you have. I offer what I can in love. Then take the step given, write the letter, vote the conscience, serve on the board, pay the tax, refuse the bribe, tell the truth without barb, let love act through you without strain. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, the action needed is revealed. The timing is revealed. The tone is revealed. God acts, we consent. Imagine a city where 1,000 such instruments rise each morning and sow sufficiency before speech. The board meeting begins, and no one needs to steal the agenda. The patrol car stops a driver, and the exchange is clean, no tax of humiliation levied, no tribute of fear collected. The editorial is written to inform, not inflame. The vote is cast as stewardship, not as conquest. This is not utopia, this is law obeyed. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Now let us seal it, not with argument, but with identity. I and my Father are one. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness. In my oneness with God, I find my security. In my oneness with God, I find my peace. In my oneness with God, I find my guidance. In my oneness with God, I find my supply. In my oneness with God, I find my joy. In my oneness with God, I find my usefulness to all who cross my... When I want nothing you have, and you want nothing I have, there is no possibility of a war, only the inevitability of a shared good. So, Father, let thy law be the government of our consciousness, our households, our councils, our nations. Let the hunger for taking be dissolved in the feast of sufficiency, not by might nor by power, but by thy Spirit. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And in that grace, love replaces taking, peace becomes practical, and conflict has nowhere to live. And so it is. And I thank you